Evening campers, welcome back. Something completely different for this video. What would happen if you took a Flexwing Microlight pilot like me and put them in the seat of a Boeing 737? Well, stick around, let's find out. Now, obviously, I wasn't going to get my hands on a real jet airliner like this one, so I've travelled to a top secret simulator training facility on an industrial estate just off the A1260, 2 miles south of Peterborough, to a company called Aerospace Experience, which offers a range of simulator training experiences and courses in both fixed and full motion simulators on a range of aircraft ranging from the 737 to an F4 Phantom. I'll put a link to them in the description below. Having never flown any aircraft with a fixed wing, let alone a 737, I didn't rate my chances of survival. However, to give me a fighting chance, I was provided beforehand with some pre-read material to help me familiarise myself with the flight controls, where to find the various panels and switches, what they did, and how to read the numerous displays found all over the cockpit. So, having had a coffee and a nervous pre-flight wee, I had a walk around the facility before making my way into the simulator and strapping myself into the captain's seat. My first impression was just how realistic and immersive the cockpit itself was. You genuinely felt like you were sitting in the cockpit of a 737. That was closely followed by a sense of being absolutely and completely overwhelmed by the sheer number of instruments, switches, display panels, knobs and levers. It couldn't have been more different to the cockpit that I'm used to sitting in. Nevertheless, my instructor Chris soon put me at ease. He sat down next to me, started to show me around and see just how much of that pre-read I had remembered. This is what happened next.
Yep. Pull yourself forward. Okay. Good. So let's just start with a quick overview then, see what we recognise and what we don't.
Nothing.
So you've got two television screens in front of you.
Yep.
Primary flight display on your left, nav display on the right. Yep. So tell me what's going on here. What do we recognise?
Right, so I recognise that airspeed down the left side. And then altitude or height on the right hand side.
Yep.
Horizontal or artificial horizon in the middle. So that gives you your pitch and your roll angle. That's the air pressure. I think those are the commanded values. So that's what height you've set somewhere on here, and that's what airspeed you've set somewhere on here.
Correct.
That's about where, that's your VSI, is it? Your rate of climb?
Yep.
And then that's it. That's the sum total of my knowledge.
Good, no, that's good enough. I'm happy with that. Nav display, not much on it at the moment, with a triangle, white line coming out to the track line or the direction we're pointing in, currently pointing to the south. And we'll add some information to this in a second.
Okay.
So, at the moment we're sat East Midlands, we're on the ground, we've got an electric cable in the side of the aircraft that's giving us AC power, powering all the systems. So one of the things that we want to do before we push back is to start the auxiliary power unit, so the third engine that lives in the tail but doesn't give us any thrust.
Okay.
So while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to quickly put a route into the computer. So we'll just do a short A to B flight to get us started. So we're here at East Mids, so I'll put the code in for East Midlands, and we're going to build our route from East Midlands and we're going to go up to Manchester. We're going to take off on the westerly runway behind us, and we're going to take off to a place called Trent, near Stoke-on-Trent.
I might well fly over it. The VOR?
Yeah.
Just near Carsington Water. I flew over it last night.
Excellent. We're going to fly over it again now. And then we're going to go over the Pennines, make a left turn into Manchester, flying over Stockport onto the southwesterly runway. So that's our route. You can see that appearing now on the navigation display as well, so we've got something to follow.
Okay.
Yeah, V2 is the point of no return. Sorry, V1 is the point of no return. At V1, you've got to go. Yes. Regardless of what the issue is, you've got to take the problem into the air. Yep. VR, as you correctly said, pull back, bring the problem into the air. Yep. And V2 is a safety speed. If you had lost an engine, then that's our safety speed that we want to use to maintain directional stability.
Okay.
Good. So that's the computer setup. And if we turn to the overhead panel, we'll see that the auxiliary power unit is now running. It's producing suitable power. We switch the anti-collision light on, that's the red light on the outside, lets everyone know that we're about to move. Strobe should be off as well. And then we're about ready for pushback. Any questions so far?
No, I'm just completely overwhelmed at the minute. This is a little bit more information than I'm used to on the thing that I fly. So
simply, all it is a preset route to get you away from the airfield. Usually has a mixture of noise abatement, separation from other aircraft inbound or other airfields, and to get you into the airway system. That's kind of the primary purpose of them. So if we pop
just whilst we're getting the aircraft ready to fly, I should mention that we must have spent a good 20 minutes on the ground configuring the various aircraft systems, as well as calculating performance figures such as takeoff speeds and loads of other stuff which, if I'm honest, I didn't really understand. I spent most of the time just pressing buttons when I was told to. I have edited out a lot of these steps, otherwise this video would be over an hour in length. If however you'd be interested in me posting the full unedited version of this session, drop me a comment and I'll do what I can.
6,000 feet, so if you could set 6,000 feet in the altitude window. So we're primarily going to be following the magenta line because that's already preset.
Something I'm used
and it's
to.
taking the data from the computer. I'm going to start the engines now. So what I'd like you to do is to push this switch in, turn it to the left. And then if we look down at the upper DU, we can see the start valve has opened.
Yeah.
On the lower DU, this is the core of the engine spinning up. So when this number reaches 25, we're going to put some fuel in. This switch, if you want to pull it out and up, you can do that
At 25.
at 25. So what we've done there is we've put fuel into the engine, we've opened the valves and the wings to let fuel through. So what we should see is the exhaust gas temperature increasing.
Yeah.
You can see fuel flow now as well. And the big fan, the N1 compressor at the front of the engine spinning up. At about 56%, the starter will close. You'll physically hear it clicking off. So you can start engine number 1 now, same process. And again at 25, pop the fuel in.
This one I presume, yeah?
That's the one.
So just how accurate is this compared to the real thing? Is this a one-for-one, everything is exactly as in the
Scale,
real thing?
tactile feel, everything, it's as it is.
Wow.
You can set the parking brake, just pull that lever up. That's it, you can let go. So at this point we tell the ground crew thank you very much, we've started both engines, you can disconnect. And we'd wave them off probably on the right hand side, which would be over here.
Yeah.
And once they're at a safe distance, then we can start to configure. We want to make sure they're away from the aircraft before we start touching anything that could cause anyone harm.
Which way's that? Down?
Yeah. Start switches can move to the continuous position. And that one as well.
Okay.
Flaps, we're going to set them to 5. You can see the flap position indicator moving into position.
Generators.
On.
APU.
Off.
Start switches.
Continuous.
Probe heat.
On.
Anti-ice.
Off.
Air conditioning.
Pax auto, bleeds on.
Isolation valve.
Auto.
Flaps.
So 5 required, 5 selected, green lights.
Stab trim.
5.5 units required, 5.5 set.
Start levers.
Idle detent.
Flight controls.
Checked. Okie dokie, so we're going to taxi to the runway now. So if you look out your left window, there should be a radar dish spinning in the trees.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to turn left towards that. Now we turn using the tiller, which is this thing on the wall.
Okay.
So we don't use the rudder on the ground. So I'm going to give you a little bit of thrust to get us moving. And then I want you to hold that fully left and we'll start turning.
So we're going down that way to take off. That way.
Correct, yeah, we're going to go all the way down to the end. Good, so it's clear on your left, clear on the right. And you want to keep this line as if it's going straight through the centre of your body as the...
Oh right.
yeah, if you... particularly if you've got a little bit of moisture on the ground, you can hear the nose wheel sliding underneath you. It's, okay, so that's strobes on, auto thrust on. So MCB set, transponder TARA. lights on, holding on the landing lights. Okay, so if you just go straight to the centre and then let's try and line up from there. So you can use the nav display to help you because you can see the commanded setting versus your actual heading. So just going to stop there, so that's more or less pointing straight down the runway. Okay, runway 27, you're clear for takeoff, surface wind calm. So wait for them to spool up. Stable. So it's a little bit of left foot, that's it. So takeoff thrust set, indications.
So, having used the full width of the runway thanks to a rudder that works backwards, we managed to get into the air. Then, after a relatively short flight over the Midlands, it was time to line up for a full stop landing at Manchester's runway 23 right. This was the bit, if I'm honest, I'd been dreading.
500.
Mindful of not saying anything, I just can't concentrate.
400.
That's multitasking, I can't do that.
300.
Pinch up a touch, about 2.5 degrees.
200.
So I'm sure we're still coming down. That's it.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Speed breaker, 2 reversals, 1 knot, 80, 60. Very nice.
I'm obviously flying the wrong sort of aircraft. I can't under micro, mate. I think you probably give me a little bit of help there, didn't you?
No, I didn't touch it. So the thing is that your speed is controlled with thrust, and
Yeah.
your height is controlled with pitch. So
Yeah.
opposite probably to what you're used to. But no, that's fine. So once you kind of get a good view of the runway, so we say outside of 1,000 feet, you're just flying on instruments.
Yeah.
At 1,000 feet, you're starting to include the runway and the scan. So
Yeah.
about 75% in, 25 out. By 500 feet, it should be 50-50 in and out.
Yeah.
And then starting to transition more out of the window.
Yeah.
And by that point, you're pretty much just setting your sort of target pitch, which is giving you the nice rate of descent, and just aiming almost as if you're going to crash into the runway.
Yeah.
So what you're doing there is you're just giving it a little bit of a round out, a little bit like you'd expect to do in a light
Yeah.
aircraft. But don't, just keep it coming as if you're going to smash into it. But
Right.
it's only really the last sort of 30 feet that you start to raise the nose, only slightly,
Yeah.
let it touch down.
So, after a reasonable landing at Manchester, followed by an acceptable ILS arrival into Tenerife South, Chris decided it was time for something a bit more challenging, and so he set me up for the infamous approach into Kai Tak Airport, Hong Kong. If you've not seen this, go and Google it. What makes it so difficult is the proximity of tall mountains and high residential blocks very close to the airport, which means that you have to fly the approach by aiming at a checkerboard on the side of a hill before making a ridiculously low altitude turn to the right to end up on a very short final approach and touchdown. This is a challenge for seasoned pilots, so I didn't stand a chance.
You can see we've got mountainous terrain to the left, so it's quite a tight little valley. The runway is right in the bay.
1,000.
And then the plan now is to pick a time where we want to start the right turn. So we're looking at those rabbit lights. We want to get right over them. So make sure you're still coming down. So the aiming point is the checkerboard, which is on that small green hill there.
Oh right, yeah.
microlights break off to the right. So once you're over them, I want you to turn right now and follow those lights in. So start your right turn. Just be careful that the nose doesn't drop too much. That's it.
500,
So we don't need to be quite that steep.
400, 300,
Very nice. You're going to hit the buildings,
200,
that's good.
100, approaching minimums. 50, 40, 30, 20, minimums. 10,
Now, speed breaker, bring the reverses up. All the way up now, that's it. 80 knots. 60. Good. To a stop. Very nice. Not bad at all.
Well, that's the closest I'll ever get to flying a Boeing 737. What was my takeaway from all of that? Well, when I was a kid, I dreamt of being an airline pilot. However, having spent a bit of time in a simulator, it does seem to me that you spend the majority of your time programming computers, operating a machine, and letting the aircraft do the flying for you. So in terms of pure enjoyment, I think I'll stick to my Microlight. Right, hope you've enjoyed that one. If you have, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you on the next adventure, whatever that may be.